Tokugawa Ieyasu. Born in 1543, died in 1616. The founder of the Tokugawa shogunate, the dynasty that would rule Japan for the next 263 years. He was given away as a hostage at the age of 6. He did not come home for 13 years. This is his story. It was December 1572. Tokugawa Ieyasu had just been beaten so badly by the warlord Takeda Shingen that his men had to drag him back to Hamamatsu Castle on a half-dead horse. When he dismounted, a retainer noticed something staining the back of his armor. Ieyasu looked down. He looked up. He said, with a perfectly straight face, "This is Miso." The man who would unify Japan and end 150 years of civil war did not always look like the calm strategist history remembers. He soiled his armor in a panic. He killed his own wife on the order of his ally. He was called Tanuki, the sly old badger. And he won. He won because he had spent 13 years of his life as a hostage learning, very young, that the only thing he could control was how long he could wait. He was born in 1543, in a small castle in Mikawa province, to a family that did not have very long to live. His father was a minor lord squeezed between two giants, the Imagawa clan to the east, the Oda clan to the west. The two giants spent their decades grinding the small clans between them into nothing. In 1547, when Ieyasu was 6 years old, his father agreed to send him east. He was to be a hostage in Suanpu, the seat of the Imagawa, in exchange for military protection. A small life, traded for a few more months of safety. He never made it to Suanpu. The Oda intercepted the procession on the road and stole the boy. For 2 years, the 6-year-old future shogun was held in a temple outside Atsuta, surrounded by men who had killed members of his own family. His father refused to bend even to save him. Then his father was murdered. Then his mother had already been sent away years before. He had no one. When he was 8, the Imagawa managed to negotiate him back. He was sent to Suanpu. He stayed there until he was 19. In 1560, when Ieyasu was 19 years old, his keeper Imagawa Yoshimoto marched out of Suanpu at the head of 25,000 men. He was going to crush a young upstart named Oda Nobunaga and march on the capital. Yoshimoto was killed in the rain at a place called Okehazama. The Imagawa Empire collapsed in a single afternoon. Ieyasu walked back to his ancestral castle of Okazaki for the first time in 13 years. He picked up the pieces of his father's small clan. And he made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. He allied with the man who had just killed his keeper. For the next 22 years, Ieyasu fought beside Oda Nobunaga. He fought the warrior monks of the Iko-Iki and broke them. He fought the cavalry of Takeda Shingen and lost so badly at Mikitagahara that he soiled himself riding home. He fought again. He learned. He waited. Then in 1579 came the order he could not refuse. Nobunaga had received a letter. The letter accused Ieyasu's wife, Lady Tsukiyama, of plotting with the Takeda. It accused his eldest son, Nobu Ieyasu, of being part of the plot. The letter had been sent by Nobunaga's own daughter, who was Nobu Ieyasu's wife. It was almost certainly a domestic feud between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law that had spiraled. Nobunaga did not care. Ieyasu was given a choice: refuse and lose his alliance with the most powerful man in Japan. Comply and execute his own family. In September of that year, Lady Tsukiyama was stabbed to death by his retainers. In October, Ieyasu ordered his 20-year-old son Nobu Ieyasu to commit ritual suicide. He never wrote about how he made the decision. He never spoke about it publicly. He went on fighting. He went on waiting. 3 years later, in 1582, Oda Nobunaga was betrayed by his own general and burned alive in a temple in Kyoto. Ieyasu was in the wrong part of the country with 20 men around him. Akechi's forces were everywhere. He had to walk back to his territory through hostile mountains, in disguise, expecting to die. He didn't. When he came back, he found that Nobunaga's death had handed Japan not to him, but to Toyotomi Hideyoshi, a former peasant-turned-brilliant general. Hideyoshi was younger, faster, more charismatic. Ieyasu was 40 years old. He had a choice again. Fight Hideyoshi for the country. Or wait. He fought Hideyoshi twice, to a draw. And then he did something the proud warlords of his generation could not understand. He bowed. He swore loyalty to a peasant. He accepted Hideyoshi's order to abandon his ancestral lands in central Japan and move his entire clan to a swampy backwater on the eastern coast called Edo. The other lords laughed. Edo was nothing. A few fishing villages around a half-rotted castle. Ieyasu went. He drained the swamps. He built canals. He turned the backwater into the largest city in Japan within a generation. For 16 years, he served Hideyoshi. He smiled. He waited. In 1598, Hideyoshi died. He left a 5-year-old son and a council of regents. Ieyasu was on that council. Within 2 years, the council had collapsed into civil war. On the morning of October 21, 1600, two armies of nearly 200,000 men faced each other in fog at a crossroads called Sekigahara. By that afternoon, Ieyasu had won Japan. 3 years later he was named shogun. 12 years after that, he wiped out the last of the Toyotomi heirs at the siege of Osaka, and his line was secure. He died the following year, at 73, having lived longer than every rival of his generation by decades. The shogunate he founded ruled Japan for 263 years. No civil war broke out for the entire period. It is, by some measures, the longest stretch of internal peace any large country has ever managed. Here is the part of his life that no business book about him gets right. He was not patient because he was wise. He was patient because he had learned, at the age of 6, in a temple full of his enemies, that there was nothing else for a small boy to be. He had been waiting his entire life. He had been waiting since before he understood what waiting was. What looks like strategy from the outside is sometimes just the shape that grief takes when a child is given enough decades to do something with it. You don't have to be the strongest in the room. You have to be the one who is still in the room when everyone louder than you has already left. Ieyasu watched two larger men, Nobunaga and Hideyoshi, burn brighter and die younger. He outlived them by waiting. If you had been him at 40, with the country slipping toward a peasant boy half your age, would you have bowed? Or would you have fought? Tell me in the comments. Tales of Old Japan publishes one story every Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. If this one moved you, subscribe, and consider reading more at the Japan Dispatch, the newsletter that keeps these stories alive. Link in the description.